basically give everybody the same coverage that what members of Congress have. I mean, no one is dismantling anything. That promise is there. It's got to become affordable for the future, for the long term. But there's no dismantling at all. There's nothing in the budget about Social Security.
I would ask the same question to you, Congressman, that I did to your opponent earlier this morning. It just seems to me that as a layman watching it from Iowa, that we have sort of a dead on arrival situation with bills in one chamber or the other. One passes them, the other one won't take them. There just doesn't seem to be a movement. Now, as I remarked earlier, modern history is replete with the Reagan, Tip O'Neill stories about the very, very different in their outlook. But at the same time, Reagan was able to get, with the Democrat Congress, was able to get things done. What is in the climate or what's in the water in Washington right now that keeps that from happening?
Well, maybe something about an election coming. I mean, that's part of it, unfortunately. But no, that's the way we're going to get things done. We were actually able to work together to get a highway bill to address the student loan issue. On a bipartisan basis, there are some things that actually are getting done. And I would refer back to my appropriations bill. That, really, there's no way that you can pass that if you don't have bipartisan support and also keep your principles. I mean, that's what it's all about. But no one here, I can assure you, has ever seen me down on the floor yelling and screaming or, in the floor of the house. Because I'm one who works in the system, has to get things done rather than to posture. And unfortunately, that's what's happening every day. You get closer to the election, it becomes more and more political, unfortunately. But there are huge issues that we've got to deal with, and the only way that you do that is on a bipartisan basis. I think, unfortunately, it's going to be kicked till after the election. Things like the Senate has not done any appropriation bills. They haven't passed a budget in 3 years. So how do you reconcile with the House if they don't even have a budget to reconcile with? You're going to have the rescission, the massive cuts to defense, the tax policy. All of those things are going to have to be done on a bipartisan basis, or else they're not going to get done. So this is very frustrating for someone like me, who works all the time to get things accomplished, to have to deal with that environment. But I will. It is very frustrating to watch. We would have had a highway bill 2 years ago, except the president decided that there was no source of revenue that he would agree to. I don't know how you can have a highway bill without revenues going into it. Things that there are impasses, but many of them are based on principle also. I mean, I don't think anyone expects you to give up your principles. They don't expect you to personally attack people for disagreeing with you, but it's a matter of actually trying to work together to find a solution. And I think that's extremely important. I'm as frustrated as you are, I can assure you. I try to work together.
Morning. Your biography and your introduction reminded me that you're on the subcommittee or appropriations subcommittee for Homeland Security, and just got me to thinking to an essay that was written earlier this summer by CNN's Fareed Zakaria about the growth of Homeland Security since September 11th, and it's become the third largest bureaucracy in the federal government. Can you just talk about where that fits in line with your personal priorities for deficit reduction? And I mean, similarly, and speaking of posturing, I mean, personally, the priority you've taken for the unit in Des Moines, the fighter wing in Des Moines, and where your priorities go relative to those two growth issues.
Well, the Homeland Security, obviously when that was set up after 9/11, was a huge undertaking. We brought different agencies from 22 different areas of government together. It was very difficult. I was on the committee when we set that up. The biggest growth in that is with the Transportation Security, TSA. And that's where there's way more than what we need. I mean, that portion of it certainly should be reviewed. The budget could be strongly looked at in that regard. Also, I mean, the thing that I fought for on Homeland Security, FEMA is part of that, and the flooding that we had over in southwest Iowa was key to make sure that we got the kind of response that we needed to make sure they had the funding that was there. We could talk about some votes on funding for FEMA that maybe would set us apart on this election, but the 132nd Air Wing here is extraordinarily important. It is actually money saving here. For the same readiness potential, it costs about 35 cents on the dollar compared to what the regular military has for that capability. So it's actually very beneficial as far as efficiency, cost savings, all of that. We had, and I was on the panel last week when Governor Branstad was in Washington. We have continued to try and work with the Air Force to make sure that we keep that unit here because it is extraordinarily capable. We have pilots with 5 times more on average experience flying hours than what they have in the regular military, about the same as far as 5 to 6 times more years of experience as far as maintenance and the capabilities that we have here. So I mean, to me it's extraordinarily important. It's very cost effective to keep that unit here. But certainly within Homeland Security, the TSA is grown way beyond. We've actually tried to limit the number of employees that they have, and it's been stopped by the administration basically because of the support they get from the federal employees.
The Farm Bill, I was surprised to hear 80% of that is for food stamps. Is there any way that you can change that whole process so that the cost of food is actually lower? And I mean, it's a big process, but that's a lot of money going just to food.
Right. Actually, the Ag Appropriation Bill this year, everybody looks at the Department of Agriculture as having to do with farmers.
Yeah.
85%, almost 86% of the spending in the appropriations bill this year goes to feeding programs. Very little of it. Well, back 14% actually goes to anything real ag related, directly as far as farmers or conservation, ag research, those types of things. What happened in the stimulus was that they increased the benefits by 20%. They changed the eligibility, so basically if you signed up for Medicaid, you were immediately automatically enrolled in food stamps. So they have dramatically loosened down. The reason there's so many more people outside of the very poor economy is that the requirements to sign up for it have been just totally dissolved. So anybody is eligible. And it's not sustainable. In the Farm Bill, there is some, at least trying to get back to pre-stimulus eligibility.
Yeah.